Which for being with us today, Vern. He's going to provide us with an invocation.
Oh, okay.
Which, thank you for your kind words. It's always an honor to have you in our presence, Vernon. Next, I have Nikki take roll call
Carlos Hernandez,
here.
Tara Gishik. Here. Shane Drift,
Ma, here.
Janelle Gogolay. Here. Robert Moyer.
Here.
Thank you, Nikki. First item on the is the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair and Council, the only item that I have that may be added to the agenda was a discussion regarding the District 2 representative's office. Not sure if council wants that on the agenda or not.
Where are you gonna put that at?
We can put that after, under me. Yeah, under me.
Sounds good. There's no other additions or deletions. I ask for a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the discussion of the office on the pavilion side under Miranda's other.
I'll move.
Moved by Janelle. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. First item on the agenda is the approval of meeting minutes. October 1st is not ready. Those will be tabled. also with November 17th not being ready. Those will be tabled. So if council has a minute, if you haven't reviewed November 5th, 2025 meeting minutes, please do so now. There's no questions. Ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes for November 5th, 2025.
I'll move.
A motion to approve meeting minutes by Janelle. Do I have a second? Second by Tara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. October 1st and November 17th meeting minutes will be tabled. I have a motion for the tabling of October 1st and November 17th meeting minutes.
Table.
Table motion by Tara. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. First item on the agenda is the consent, or the next item is the consent agenda. Miranda, would you be able to read those?
Yes. Under the consent agenda, letter A, Duluth Urban Office Food Assistance Program amended guidelines. The vote was 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 silent. Letter B, change order number 3 for Nett Lake Wastewater improvements. The vote was 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 silent. Letter C, end phase 1 of financial contingency plan effective November 15th, 2025. Vote was 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 silent. Letter D, request to move life and disability to Symetra. The vote was 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 silent. Letter E, resolution number 44, 2026, request to approve task order with SRF and approve the submission of HSIP Grant. Vote was 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 silent. Letter F, wild rice donation to ENP and urban offices. Vote was 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 silent. Letter G, contract with Valint Construction for Big Woods Phase 2. The vote was 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 silent. And finally, letter H, statement, financial contingency plan Phase 1 end November 15th, 2025. The vote was 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 silent.
Ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Before we move to approving them, I'd just like to reiterate some questions that I had with, letter B, change order for number 3 for Nett Lake Wastewater improvements. Is that in a poll vote, I asked, is there money in a budget to cover the increase in cost? How much money is still available for the other change orders? And if we move down to G, this is for the contract with Valint Construction for Big Woods Phase 2. And in the poll, I asked, is there a grant match requirement? If so, does Big Woods have the funds for the grant match? If not, does the tribe have the funds for the grant match? Thank you.
Aye. So for the Big Woods Transit Facility, there is no match. So that one, phase 2 is just the actual construction of the building. Phase 1 was all the water and sewer that we had to install from the village to Public Works.
What about the change order number 3 for the Nett Lake Wastewater improvements?
That would be a Brian question, I think.
If we could get some answers from Brian or whoever, that'd be great. Thank you. Move to approve.
A motion by Shane to approve the consent agenda is read. Do I have a second? Second by Tara. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. First up, we have Melissa Walls. She'll be joining us today in person. And it looks like she has a TOD report.
Okay. Bonjour, good morning. Nice to see you all and meet some of you for the first time. Mimengwan Indishina Cosmigizi Duadam. For those who I don't know, I'm Melissa Walls. I'm a descendant here. My mother's enrolled at Boys Fort. Grew up coming here for healthcare, but grew up in International Falls. And I know some of you from over the years and haven't met a couple of the council members. I'm here to deliver back your data from the Together Overcoming Diabetes project. And I'll just brief you on some reports that we've shared. So each of you should have in front of you a spiral bound report. In addition, Miranda, I think, has a Ziploc baggie of goodies. These are flash drives that have electronic versions of these reports. We find that when we deliver findings back, it's helpful to have the electronic version for grant writing or other things. So just briefly, we're here to brief you on the outcomes of this collaboration that started back in 2008. And the specific grant I'm going to report on today started in early 2019. I want to acknowledge all the local team members. So if you turn to page 2 of the report, one of them is here, Squidge. And you can see everybody who's worked on this project over the years on page 2 within the community. You'll also see 4 other communities listed. So this was a collaboration among 5 tribes and our team, which is at the Johns Hopkins University Center for Indigenous Health. So in my professional life, I'm a professor there, and we do research with tribes to promote health and well-being. And our mission is thriving Indigenous communities worldwide. So thank you for hanging out with me, and we'll answer any questions, but I'll give you a brief overview first of what we found. Okay, so this project was an intervention. So since 2008, we've been working to understand factors that lead to diabetes complications beyond the normal ones everybody talks about. So we know diet, we know exercise, but it was a conversation with Doris back when she was a diabetes nurse here in 2007 and 2008, where we really started to think about mental health and how mental health and diabetes interact, and then how stress exacerbates diabetes for people who have that condition. So this particular program was an outcome of learning all of that and then creating an intervention that was initially built by the Navajo Nation and the White Mountain Apache tribe. And they built an intervention for kids. They were trying to prevent diabetes in the next generation. We kind of flipped the script on that, and we adapted the program to be focused on adults already living with diabetes and their kids. So over these past 6 years, during a pandemic, we've been trying to do home visiting. Here at Boys Fort, there were 22 individuals or 11 families enrolled in the trial. And family health coaches were trained locally to go into the home and provide different modules. So as you flip through the report, you can read about the various modules. Page 8 of the report tells you the various things that they were taught in these lessons. So it's home-based because we heard from families that transportation can be a barrier to care. And the goal was to intervene on diabetes for adults, but prevent it for the next generation. So this was research. We were trying to figure out, does this program do anything to promote well-being? And that's what this report outlines. The short story that I will tell you, and any of the team members can attest, is it's really hard to do home-based care in the first place, and then a pandemic came. So the original trial, we imagined having several hundred families enrolled across the 5 communities, and we ended up with only 81. So we didn't have sufficient what we call statistical power to detect major effects in this intervention. However, as you read the report, you'll see there was substantial satisfaction with the program. We found that 84% of adult participants and a little over half of the youth said that they really liked the program, and they continued to implement the strategies that we taught them for stress management, promoting well-being, family communication, and other factors. There are also, towards the end of this report, what we call more qualitative findings from the families. So feedback they gave us as they went through this program that demonstrated some positive impacts. And last, I can say that from the statistical models, we see some evidence that this program is improving mental health for both adults and kids, which is a good thing. And although we didn't have the power to do what we thought we would statistically, our colleagues in South Dakota are now picking up this program and adapting it for Lakota people. So what we've done in Ojibwe Nations is now being shared with other tribes. So if you want more information, my contact information is available. We always write into grants that data collected from tribes is owned by tribes. And so in the spirit of data sovereignty, this is why we deliver things back in this format. If anyone ever comes to me outside of the tribe asking for the data, I tell them they have to come to the tribal council. And the last thing I would just ask, and we can answer questions, and maybe Squidge, I'll pass the mic to you, is if it's okay with you as council members, if anybody within the tribe contacts me to share these reports, if I have permission to do that. If they're outside the tribe, I would tell them to come to you. But I'll pass it to Squidge here. Okay, no, he doesn't want to say anything. Any questions?
I was going to say, thank you for this report. And obviously this is beneficial information, and it's glad that it's spreading over to our Lakota brothers next door. Who do you think would come and ask for this information? Just wondering.
Yeah, sometimes it happens where our researchers at other universities will contact me and they'll see something, you know, like this grant is funded by the National Institutes of Health, so they can do a search and see. We have, you know, a website that talks about the program. So they may contact me and say, oh, can we access that data? Can we have a copy of that data? I've even had FOIA requests, so Freedom of Information Acts. And in those cases, I've been allowed to redact tribal and cultural information before I had to share it. But
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just making sure that we do want to share this information if it's going to benefit other communities and studies. So just didn't want to give our information out to anybody. That was just
Yeah.
asking.
I agree.
But I suppose you're going to monitor for that, right?
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, if I'm ever not sure, we work with the team. Hey, does this make sense? Do you know this person? I've never heard of them. Are they up there? And then, like I said, we write into the data sharing agreement that if someone wants the raw data, they have to come to you all and ask for it. We're just stewards of it. You're the owners. Lots of information. Yeah. 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 And there's so much information in here, by the way, as you flip through, not just about typical diabetes, things like A1C, but you can see mental health, you can see behavioral outcomes, even cultural engagement. So if you're writing grants around cultural activities, you can see what people are, some of the activities they're doing, how they feel identity-wise, and how they're coping with stress. So lots of kind of fun stuff for grant writing endeavors. We also historically, Janelle might remember this, we have gone to the clinic, and Melissa Hawk was a part of this team and present findings. So we're happy to do that. We can talk to Melissa and make sure that providers have this information as well.
Which I saw you back there talking to Doris, so I think you already know who would be.
Yeah, I said, I bet this is
Best.
going to you. Yeah.
Be best to utilize this excellent information that you gather. But thank you, McWitch, for everything that you've done so far, and I'm excited to see that what this can bring for everybody.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see what happens with the Lakota team there, not in a pandemic.
All
It'll be
right.
a little easier for them. Miigwech for your time.
Switch. Thank you, Melissa.
Mhm.
Thank you, Switch.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I did check with Brian Whiteman regarding Representative Drift's question. There is no match required for that grant. For the Big Woods Transit, there's no match required.
Thank you. Next up, we have Pam Parson with a compliance update. Hi, Pam. How are you doing today? I'm going to start us out with the questions. So let's see. What is your greatest concern? Oh, I'm
my
sorry.
great-
Pam,
Go ahead.
how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Oh,
Good
good.
morning.
Good. Thank you. I just remembered I had the questions, so I was going to start us out, but I forgot to say hi. Thank you, Pam. What is your
All right.
greatest concern?
So my greatest concern as a health compliance official is cybersecurity protections and increasing our awareness and education for our employees. So our IT department provides know-before training on cybersecurity, and it's assigned to employees based on the response to various emails sent attempting to trick our employees. If they click, they must take the training. If they report it with the phishing button on the email, they do not have to take the training. And this is in addition to the cybersecurity training that I assign our employees annually. So I'm going to continue to team up with our IT department, working with Teresa Isham, I think that's her name. Anyway, Teresa on cybersecurity awareness as a full reservation. So that's like one of my greatest concerns.
Also from the tribal council, so thank you, Pam, for bringing that up. Next, what are your 3 issues that you're working on right now? Your top 3 issues?
And actually, I'm going to call them items because they're not really issues. But so the first thing I'm working on is I'm working on finishing the policy and procedure reviews for 2025. So annually, we need to have our compliance committee review all of our policies, just to ensure that if there's any changes that need to be made, they're made, and then we'd have to do a retraining. So in the process of getting that completed, I also completed the security risk assessment for 2025. And I put it in a nice little binder and it goes into my compliance manual. So the first thing I need to do for the security risk assessment, Randy's been out for the last couple of weeks on a much needed vacation for him. But the next thing I'll do is I'll sit down with Randy and we'll review the security risk assessment just to make sure I'm correct with all of it. That's usually how we do it, is I go through it once, Randy goes through it again, and then we go through it together. Third item I'm working on is I started the planning for the 2026 HIPAA in-person training. If you recall, last year Dan challenged me to do the trainings in person and not have them all on video. It went really, really well. I got a lot of employee feedback indicating that they learned more than just watching a video on HIPAA. We made it interactive and fun. We have, I'll be turning over 2 compliance committee members and adding 2 additional members. And then we'll start working on our HIPAA training. I'm going to do a couple little twists to it this year to make it fun as well. So them are the
Perfect.
3 items.
Thank you, Pam. I know you had mentioned the security risk assessment, so I think that'll segue us into the next question. What are the top 3 risks you are monitoring?
So really I'm monitoring and are increasing our education and awareness on cybersecurity protections. So in the healthcare sector, security professionals report that they're the top 5 cybersecurity threats facing organizations in healthcare in 2024 were ransomware, phishing, compromised credentials, third-party credentials, and data breaches. So we're really looking at that third-party credentialing. We're working with Epic on getting that implemented. I work a lot with the IT department to make sure that we got everything that we need. Things change so rapidly that it's really it's a task just for our IT department and Randy in particular to be watching all these new things that are coming down the hatch and the new threats and to be prepared and poised for them. But I feel real secure in Randy's security responsibility to Health and Human Services. So I'm really happy with that. So cybersecurity is going to be like at the top of my radar. The next thing I'm working on is we're doing billing and coding audits, and that's to ensure compliance. We need to ensure separation of duties for all of our billing staff. Internally, we started auditing records on a monthly basis. So we have started that. I pulled a team together at the request of Dan to get that rolling. So Dan has gotten us going with doing our internal audits. This audit that I'm talking about is an external audit. We will be hiring an audit consulting firm, McManus and Monslav. And they're right in the midst right now of auditing our billing and our coding. And I expect them to come and train our revenue department in 2026. At that point, I will make sure that you guys get the report of the findings of the audit and then the recommendations made after completion of the audit. So after the audit, typically what I like to do is same thing with like the security risk assessment. After I'm done with that assessment, then I try to make sure I do a work plan for that next year. So I'm actually working on things to improve for the next year. We're going to do the same thing with the revenue audit. So that's another thing. The next thing is, and I'm just looking at areas that we're lacking. So reviewing and writing of the revenue operation policy and procedures, our revenue processes, and then training our revenue staff in areas for improvement. So I'm working real closely with Amanda right now on policies, procedures, and our workflow for our revenue operations. So everything is written in a nice manual, so everyone kind of knows what they need to be doing. So
Sounds
it's
good.
a lot.
Yeah, I think the best advice I could give is give them a deadline so they don't wait till the last minute to do it or never do it because there is no deadline. But thank you, Pam. I was wondering if you have the resources that you need to fulfill your responsibilities, such as money, staff, and tools.
Yep. So I do have access to the people, the information, and the data I need to do my job. And I do believe I do have sufficient authority to do my job. I've been working with our employees, our department supervisors, our managers. I feel like they do listen to me. I feel like my concerns are taken seriously, as well as me taking their concerns seriously. That communication has to be a two-way street. I feel like they're very respectful, and I'm very respectful of all of them and all of the duties that they're assigned to do. So I believe that we have that genuine respect for each other in our jobs, and I think that's really, really important to know that I respect our employees and that they respect me. And really important. I am included in any discussions of new strategies, any new projects or initiatives, just to ensure that they're pursued compliantly. And that's been happening. So I know one thing is, I did email all the Reservation Tribal Council members on 11/17, our HIP on our fraud, waste, and abuse training. And I'm hoping you guys can get that done and back to me. If you want, I can re-email it. It's a couple pages of reading and a quiz. But I really need that for my compliance binder. I think Miranda's the only one I received that from, so.
I sent mine back in interdepartment mail.
Okay, so it should be there at some point.
Yep.
All right, thank you. And then the last thing is I really don't need to be in executive session unless you guys need me in executive session. If you have additional questions for me, I'll gladly be there.
Yeah, I think I need you
Otherwise,
there.
things are going well for compliance, so.
No, I'm just kidding. You don't need to be there at
Good.
executive session, but just for the meeting minutes, Pam Parson, you did answer questions number 5, 6, 7, and 8 required to ask of the compliance official. So thank you, Pam. I appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us. And if you do have any questions, make sure to reach out.
All right, thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Pam.
Have a
You
have a
good day.
happy holiday season, everybody. Enjoy your families and hug your elders.
Hey, which
Which,
just trying to get hugs. All right, next up on the agenda is Cody Swanson. He's joining us in person today. He's going to be talking about resolution number 45-2026. It's a BIA cooperative agreement.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Thank you guys for having me today. So the cooperative agreement is a pretty standard agreement with the BIA and tribes. We had one last signed in 2019. That was when the resolution was passed. I was just unaware. This is my first time doing a cooperative agreement, so I just did not know that a new resolution was needed. I just thought we needed a signature and they would, resend it in. So I learned that we did need a new resolution. So I'm here today asking you guys to approve that resolution on this new cooperative agreement. I guess the main reason for having the cooperative agreement, this is the mechanism that allows all of our reimbursements and our funding requests for wildland fire duties and responsibilities. And this also ensures that we're protected when we go out on assignments through the Bureau. That, protects that will receive reimbursements and that will be treated as federal employees and that will be expected, federal employee level assignments and work. The main objectives of this agreement are to participate in and administer the Wildland Fire Management Program activities, to administer the Fuels Management Program, and to train, maintain qualified tribal employees, and to designate procedures to reimburse the tribe for the costs of those activities. So that's the main 13 pages of the agreement are just the authorities and the definitions and who you are in the tribe. And then the appendices are all of the actions that you can have for reimbursement. And those appendices talk about the mechanical hazard fuels, actual reimbursement for time on fire and suppression costs. It talks about severity, which is what we deal with a lot here in Nett Lake. Where there's not a lot of active fires, but there is in the area a lot of fires. We just don't have them locally here, which we still need to be on staff, ready and prepared, which has just been typical of our last few years. There's very large fires in the northeast part of the state here. We just, luckily don't have them happen on the res. But we still need to be prepared for that and staffed, and that's where that severity funding comes from. Because we can go 3 months without a fire, but we'll still have a lot of hours and a lot of pay to that. And as well in the cooperative agreement, this allows for the BIA to share resources with us. We have a pretty limited staff here in this area, so it's very nice. Like this spring, we had people from Tule River, California. We had an engine from Maryland. We had we have a lot of people come. We had Saginaw, Chippewa out of Michigan as well. So that allows us for when we have a need for more than just the 5 guys that we have to be ready and prepared for the fires that could happen. So yeah, I'm just asking for your approval of the resolution. This will be a 5-year document. And so it won't need another approval for another 5 years. Yeah, this is our last agreement had moved $692,000 through it in those 5 years. So there's a lot of money that comes through that reimbursement through the years. And if we decided to not sign this, that would just mean that Boys Fort would eat the future costs of firefighting. So
So it looks like this is just a contract extension or
Yeah,
renewal?
a renewal. Yep.
Is there any major changes from the last?
No, Jeff reviewed this, November 23rd or 24th, I believe, and it's just cosmetic changes. You being the new chairman, Kathy Chaver's name was removed and you've been put on there. Myself being the new forest manager has put my contact info. And then obviously, we'll just need to have signatures and then dates.
Sounds good.
And if there's any questions from any of you.
Any questions or concerns from council?
Yes, reading on through your document here. Under the suppression in accordance with the agreement, the tribe agrees to the following. Number one, it says the tribe is eligible to receive non-recurring suppression funds based on reimbursements and availability of funds. Now, if funds aren't available, then what?
So they will reimburse, they're obligated for the reimbursements, and when they leave that for the availability of funds is just saying that budgetary wise, whatever the Department of Interior passes for a budget for the BIA, that if I'm gonna ask for additional dollars, additional project dollars, those may not be given just because of their budgets.
Even though it could be a requirement that they do this, there's always loopholes and how to get around this stuff. Like an example, when if the Trump administration is obligated to provide funds to a program, they could also say, well, we don't have the funds available. So that's the loophole. And that's my question, is that if they don't have the funds available, we can't get reimbursed for the recurring funding here. And then what do we do then? Do we have money to cover that?
Yeah, we do have money in the forestry budget to cover it as of now. I've never before me as a manager and now as a manager, we've never had a reimbursement not be fulfilled. But I guess into the future, that could be something that I suppose could happen, but it hasn't happened to us in the past.
I mean, Jeff, if you can relate the one I'm getting to is like the 105L, even though it's a requirement, the loophole is that they could say, well, we don't have the funding for it. And then that's the loophole. And that's what I'm kind of worried about. Moving forward, any concerns from accounting? So there's no concerns from accounting, no concerns from legal?
No, no concerns about the agreement. And I think in terms of the funding piece, we're always going to be in a position where the federal government's going to include these provisions. If they don't fund it, the money won't come through. So I think it'll be incumbent on DNR and Cody just to maintain communication with their BIA reps too, because those individuals will likely be indicating, hey, we're running out of funds, or we're not going to have fuel management, or we're not going to have reimbursement for this. And then to Kim's point, we can pull back on those activities if needed to. So.
Thank you. With that, I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Shane. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Tara, second by Tara. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Thanks, Cody.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
All right, next item on the agenda is Doris Isham and Carol Burr. They'll be talking about resolution number 46-2025, approving a work order with SRF for round roundabout project. Approving work order with SRF for roundabout project.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. The first thing we have on the agenda is a resolution that's approving the work order for SRF to work on a grant, the Tribal Transportation Safety Program grant. And we have a master contract with them. And so that this would be an addendum to that master contract. And what we will be asking them to do is to submit a grant, a design and planning grant for TTPSF for the first phase of a construction of a roundabout by the Y store. And
And I shared that on the screenshot of where we're looking at putting the roundabout.
so this would be the design phase. So it's a huge undertaking. And we will be applying for 3 separate grants. Besides the TTPSF, we'd be applying for a build grant and also the Safe Streets for All grant, which all are coming due within between January 15th and February 24th. And so the contract or the work order for SRF would be $6,421. And this would be paid through IIJA funding that we just received word yesterday that the state has approved our request for $90,000, $30,000 a piece for each of the 3 grants. And so we do have the money for to pay SRF to do the grant writing. The SRF or the turnabout project is something that we've been working on for several or a few weeks, months now.
Yep.
And as you know, there's been numerous accidents over the years, 2 of them more recently in just the last month or so. And so this intersection is one of the top intersections in the state of Minnesota that is of concern to the highway department and has one of the highest ratings of accidents in that area.
It's one of their #1 priorities as well for the state and county.
Oh, yes,
Their
just
safety plans.
so the viewers are aware, we had a meeting about this intersection and just that day there was a very severe accident. And then we had a follow-up meeting 3 weeks later. And just the day before, there was a very severe accident at that same location. So we're looking at trying to get some improvements done to the road to help make this road safe for everybody, including Boy Sport band members and everybody in the surrounding area.
So there's no match to this grant. And so there'll be basically no cost to the tribe. We are working with the Minnesota State Highway and the St. Louis County Highway departments. That will be, as we get into the grants, the TTPSF grant and also the build and the build and the SS Safe Streets for All grant will have a match, but that match will come from St. Louis County and the state. And so we're trying to work the project so there won't be no cost to the tribe.
It will be like the facilitators, we're the lead organization. And then we have MnDOT and St. Louis County partnering with us.
So we're asking for your consideration today to approve the resolution that will allow the work or approve the work order for SFRF to do the grant writing on this project.
I got a couple of questions before we proceed forward. Is that, with where they're talking about building that roundabout, is that gonna in any way, shape or form, develop the land that we own on the other side?
County that to not impede on our land as much as possible.
Mhm.
I even asked them if there was a way to do like a swap, if they use some of our land, is there another location that could give us land back? So there's all of those questions are in the planning part of it.
So when we do get into the design and planning, there will be meetings with the various departments, townships, tribal government and community members to help give their input into the design. And there are several options that we can decide on where exactly that turnabout would be. And we can have our input in, so it's the least disruptive to our land base.
Getting back to my second question. Now, with that, when you came up to my office and we talked about this roundabout, and one of the questions I raised was that in the meantime, before this roundabout can be built, can they put stoplights at that intersection to basically help reduce the accidents that are happening there?
So the state has done several improvements to it to try to stop and eliminate those accidents. But now the next step would be to do this roundabout. And I can talk to MnDOT and see about installing a light system until then, because if this goes through and we get the funding, I'm going to say when we get the funding, not if, that it's not going to be for like till 2028 or 29, because you have to design it, then you have to build it. And, like Evelyn, how long did they take? A year and a half, maybe, to do their roundabout? I thought it was a while. But I'll talk in our next meeting next week. No, it's not next week. The following week, because of the holidays, we'll talk to MnDOT and ask them about that.
Getting back to like the grant funding that you ladies are pursuing, is it going to be the same rate as the federal, or is it going to be lower? If it's lower, then we have to observe the difference.
Same grade.
Indirect cost rate. You got the state indirect cost, and you got the federal indirect cost. If there's a difference between the two, the tribe, as I understand it, has to absorb the difference.
There's no indirect cost rate on construction, and so
None?
there won't be any.
So no concerns there, Kim? Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Well, if there's no other questions or concerns, I'll ask for a motion to approve resolution
What year did you say? I just have a really quick
Oh,
question. 2028?
They were
2020.
saying 2028.
Something like
because
that,
of the-
okay. And by then, I think we'd be able to convince the community about roundabouts, how they help. Because, some people really dislike roundabouts but it would be good to see stats on that Evelyn project, on that, on these projects that are close and say, here was the accident rate after the roundabout, here's some data, It's because a lot of our members are coming from Fortune Bay area and res and then visiting the Y Star. And then we want as many people visiting the Y Star as possible. Thanks.
Yeah, they do a good job at data keeping. And also just want to mention that they would also be responsible for maintaining the road, keeping it plowed and in good condition. I'll make the motion to approve the resolution.
Sounds good.
I'll
Looks like
second.
we have a motion to approve, seconded by Tara, to approve resolution number 46, 2025. approving SRF task order number 16171.08 for preparation of the grant application for the fiscal year 2026 TTPSF grant program for the Y-Star intersection improvement project. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. It is close to 10 o'clock, so we're going to take a 10-minute break here. And then we will continue in 10 minutes with Doris Isham. She's going to lead us into some discussion in 10 minutes. Thank you, Doris.
10 minutes.
All right. 10:06, 10 minutes has passed. We'll continue on. Doris is still here. We're gonna start out with a discussion that action needed approval to update the Boy Sports Safety Action Plan.
Thank you. The Safety Action Plan was approved several months ago, and it prioritizes safety issues on the Boy Sport Reservation, both in Nett Lake and in Vermilion. Since that safety plan was developed, there's been projects developed out by Public Works where we have the new transit building, the new DNR building going in. And if we get funded, or when we get funded for the Workforce Development Center, that'll be out there. And so, and also including the Public Works. And so there's going to be a lot of traffic on that road, and there's no turn lanes there. And so we'd like to add that to the Safety Action Plan so that we can apply for future funding to put in turn lanes out there. Also, although we mentioned the Y store intersection, we want to elaborate on that section and include the roundabout, spell it out in the Safety Action Plan. And so this, we're asking for a motion to update the Safety Action Plan to include those two areas.
Okay. Does make a lot of sense to add some turning lanes right there when we plan on adding a few more buildings, or they're going to start popping up. The DNR, right? DNR, the Public Works already has a lot of traffic by
Yeah.
itself.
Mhm.
So turning lanes would be good addition. Did the council have any questions on adding those two items to the updated safety action plan? But if not, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
Move.
Moved by Shane to update Boy Sport Safety Action Plan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried.
Thank you. The next resolution is documenting technical assistance request for KLJ to review and update the feasibility study that was prepared by Native Strategies. We did talk to you at one of the Monday morning meetings, or a separate meeting, and explained some problems that we found in the feasibility study. And so we wanted to have a second pair of eyes laid on it and reviewed. And so they are doing it. KLJ is reviewing. There is no cost to the tribe. They're working under a technical assistance grant that they received through MPCA. But this would just be for documentation and verification if we ever have to look back and on actions of that feasibility study.
I'm just showing pictures of the different routes that were. Last one is the one that tribal council preferred. Where it went from around the lake.
So that's the route that highlighted green is the route that was prepared by Native Strategies. And in discussion with KLJ, they explained the groundwater, the problems in building, constructing roads and wetlands, and how that seepage from chemicals put on the road could get into the groundwater and seep into the lake. It's just too close to the lake. And so that was a concern. The other concern was that any kind of mediation would require a lot of gravel fill hauled in there. And also the credits that we would have to buy building through wetlands. Those would be enormous costs. And so those are concerns of that road. And so, which road is that? I can't make that up.
Number 3. The one that goes out, follows the main road and
Okay,
then takes off down Farmer John's and then it hits 53.
yeah,
That's the one that was most expensive, right?
yeah,
Like a 30 million?
yeah. This route that comes, it goes down to Goofy's Landing, not the landing, goes down Goofy's Road to where the ponds were. And then it goes east and then comes out by the ball field out by between Massey's and Public Works. It comes out there and then it hits on the same road, the Nett Lake Road, goes across the swamp and on the same road on to up to the Farmer John Road, and then it goes through the Town Line Road and comes out by Cousin or Ash Lake. And that route was the preferred choice by the community when we had a community meeting. And then again, when we met with the council, that was also appeared to be the consensus that that would be the safest route to go. The other routes that were an option, one road would cross, I think it was Popple Creek, between the reservation line and the bear sanctuary. And that creek feeds into Lost River, which feeds into Nett Lake. And so because that road would cross that creek, there again, we'd have the problem of road chemicals seeping into the water. And so that route was not desirable. So the only route that really is an option is this route that goes through the Town Line Road. And it would run parallel to the Swamp Road. It would be like a second road. And the cost for that route, I forget how many miles that was, but the cost of that route would be 34 million. And so then we'd have to build that road in phases. But the positive side of that is that it would open up some areas for more housing development when we go down by Goofy's and then come out by the ball field. That would open up for more housing sites. And then if there was a catastrophe in the village, then there would be a second route to get at least out of the village. And so we're, like I said, when I started, is that we just need to, for documentation purposes, to approve the work order for KLJ to update the feasibility study. Right. They're operating under a technical assistance grant from MPCA to their firm. And so they would be providing that service to us at no cost.
Yes, I know that we talked about this before, and with that road coming up by Pineview that way and going down around the lake, is that how close are we to the land that we can't develop because it's in that SEFA program or whatever it is? Is it close? There's a land that there's land that we can't develop.
The land that you bought, that would be in that.
Yes. Because the reason I'm bringing that up, because if we got the land on one side that we can't develop, my other concern too is that, because like I said before, our people before that, Europeans got here and all that, is that they camped all the way around the lake like that. And there's a burial ground down in Big Point.
Yep.
And, if we start going in that direction and you find an old traditional camp or burial site, what do we do?
Well, we wouldn't be going towards Big Point. We'd be going towards Whoopies.
I'm just using that as an example.
We're not
Yeah.
gonna use, we're probably not gonna go that road because it would, could possibly infect the lake. So it would be the one that would go, let me get that one back up. This one. So it would go just down Goofy's Road a little bit, cut across to the ball field, hit the Nett Lake Road, and then there would be two roads out by the swamp. So the regular road and then another road. And it would take us to, as far as Farmer John's.
And those roads are already developed. They're already roads. So that'd be,
Yeah.
like the town line road that would, right now it's a single lane road and we'd have to widen it to make it a double lane. And then the road that goes out by the swamp, that's already been disturbed. So there wouldn't be any new development.
Yeah.
And they already would bypass the lands that you're referring to, Shane.
Hi, Jalen. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'd just like to comment on the cultural resources side of things. Basically, I would recommend if there are any undeveloped areas, and then with just a project of this size, to hire on a third party archaeology firm, an archaeological firm, and then they can do a study like both literature and field work study, phase 1 and 2 for this project. And then that would help to hopefully avoid any areas that might be culturally sensitive. And that would include talking with the elders that are around, looking back at some of the old recordings, some of the old documents and everything that have been collected in the past. If there is in fact a burial site or something of cultural significance that we do run into, then there are probably going to be plans around how to deal with that, either moving the project in a different area, potentially just going through and relocating those people. That's something that's happened in the past. Obviously, it's not ideal, but it does happen around the state. We could try to just mitigate the amount of inadvertent discoveries that are found. So there are ways to avoid some of those things, and try to hopefully prevent them and find out where those things are prior to actually starting the project. That'd be the goal, is to find anything that is would potentially be an issue prior to even putting shovels into the ground. So that's kind of the hope, is that we get ahead of it way before the construction actually starts. And that way, if there's anything, we can kind of move or change the plan so that we can avoid those things. And obviously, just given the amount of time that we've been here as Anishinaabe people and some of the folks that were here before us, we may not be able to avoid every single thing, but that's just like most of the rest of Minnesota. Hopefully our knowledge would be a little bit better in being able to avoid those things, though.
Thank you, Jalen. Miigwech. Any further questions or concerns from council? Ask for a motion to approve resolution 47-2025, approving work order with KLJ for feasibility study review and update.
Move. Second.
Moved by Shane, second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. All right, next up, we're going to be talking about resolution 48-2025, submission of grant application to EDA under fiscal year 2025, disaster supplemental notice of funding opportunity to fund construction of Boys Fort Workforce and Economic Development Center at 100% federal rates.
Thank you. So I just wanted to comment too back on the other rest of the feasibility study is that these are not carved in stone because if we do get a grant, there will be occasions for people to put input into the plans. And so things might change that those roads that we showed you are not carved in stone. But so I'll get into the Workforce Economic Development Training Center resolution. This grant, it would be presented to the Economic Development Administration for the FY Disaster Supplemental Grant Program. What we're requesting is $6,846,419 to build a training center for local people. There would be no match because we are eligible because we are in a disaster relief area. And also we are under the Census Bureau designated as a, my mind just went blank.
The poverty.
Yeah,
Poverty.
low poverty.
Low poverty.
So we'd be eligible for the 100% federal share funding. What the building will house is
Have it on the screen.
there's a screen, yeah. The 477 career development and training offices for their staff, the Tarot office, visiting programs such as North Span, Minnesota North College's staff, and other business loan departments for people that go through the training might want to start their own businesses. We included a full kitchen, training space, office for the food sovereignty staff, and food storage such as deer, moose, garden foods, because the food sovereignty program is going to be focusing on teaching people more traditional foods, preparation and storage. It would include health training rooms for training such as PCA, CNA, or CHRs. And that would be a dedicated space with equipment in that room. It would be, we would have a plan for a computer lab for people who take online classes, and also a cultural room for art, crafts, language, and other traditional activities. We would have a multifunction room for training or meetings, and that would be a circular room that is being planned for more cultural plans or cultural things. The lobby would include a commons area for students taking breaks, studying, or waiting for classes to start. We'd have gallery walls for rotating cultural displays from the Heritage and Museum Center. On the outside, there would be 2 established sites with water, sewer, and electricity for mobile classrooms on loan from Minnesota North College systems for classes that they would teach in construction type coursework. The programs housed in a building would pay for the operation and maintenance of the facility, and the annual cost is estimated at $208,000. So the grant is, there's no deadline to the grant. However, it is first come, first review. And so we'd like to get this in before the holidays. We, at the suggestion of the EDA representative out of Chicago, he suggested that we work with an ARDC person. His name is Josh Bergstad, who has had successful grants written to the EDA department. And so we're working with him, and that's at no cost to the reservation. So we have a resolution that's asking for approval to submit the grant for your consideration. And so if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them.
With the submission of this grant, how many grants have we got zinged on because of the audits?
We've only gotten zinged on the ones that we have applied to HUD with. The rest of them, we have not, as far as I know.
So they said they've been awarded. Okay, that's good to know that we only got zinged on one so far. That's good.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
And I don't know if that's your full grant application, but just a piece for the council and maybe to bolster the application too is 477 workforce development centers are eligible for 105L funds.
And I have a question. I know you named off some programs that would be in the building. Are those like already spoken for now, or once you get the building up, will there be other people wanting to move in, or how is that gonna go? We've had meetings with the boys sport team, and everybody that's included in the building have attended those meetings. Okay, thank you.
Made sure that I asked right away that we had everybody's office and everybody's name was claimed before that building came up to avoid any issues like that came up on Vermillion once that building was done and everybody trying to decide who was going to be inside. Made sure there's the names were on the, everybody knows where they're going before that office came up.
Yeah. I think for each building we put up, we should have that in place. Then it would not cause confusion in the end, once the building is there. And then knowing how you're going to pay for the cost for that building also is good information to have. Thank you.
And if it comes in below budget, we'll be adding my office out there. Just kidding. Yeah. Kim? Hey, no.
There's no further discussion. Ask for a motion to approve resolution 48-2025, the submission of grant application to EDA under fiscal year 2025 disaster supplemental notice of funding opportunity to fund construction of wastewater workforce and economic development center at 100% federal rate. I want to see it like that.
Move.
Moved
Second.
by Tara, second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doris. I had practice at bingo last night. Next up, we're going to have Jalen Strong join us in person with a discussion about action needed and approval letter of support for Jalen to serve on the Voyager National Parks Indigenous Guidance Committee. Yeah, he didn't go in for the kiss. All right. Thank you for joining us, Jalen.
Yeah, thank you. So what I'm asking today, I guess, is to I've been helping out with the Voyagers Conservancy on their indigenous, like a tribal partner with the indigenous co-stewardship plans that they're trying to do. So essentially what Voyagers, so there's Voyagers National Park, and then a lot of national parks have their own nonprofit organizations that are associated with them. And so Voyagers Conservancy does that for Voyagers National Park. So it's outside of all the federal dollars and all the federal stuff that gets affected by the park. So when the government shutdown happens and Voyagers had to shut down, the Voyagers Conservancy is still able to do all their stuff. They recently got a grant with, I think it's like a 3-year grant or 2 or 3 year grant. And basically what it is to help build relationships with tribal nations around their parks and help bring in some of those people to help with the co-stewardship of that park. So that could mean anything from, what interpretive displays are done there, what programming is done there, if there's specific sites that we would like to request access to or restrict access to, things like that. Specifically with this, because they're right on the border, they're including both First Nations and US federal recognized tribes that have land within that area. On the US side, it's actually interesting because one of the US side is it's just us, and then Lower Sioux comes every once in a while, and sometimes Fond du Lac will email in some answers or respondents, but a lot of times it's more First Nations. It's actually a decent amount of Métis First Nations that are responding. I think the first meeting that we ever had was during State of the Band last year, and so everyone was at State of the Band rather than being at this spot. I think there was another one that we had at Fortune Bay, like another conference meeting type. And I believe it was another time where the council had to be gone for a specific reason. Anyways, they're asking for letters of support to basically serve on this. So actually the communities and their community leadership knows that these individuals are serving on these councils or these committees. And it doesn't have to be employees that does it. It can be just community wide. They do have funding to help pay for travel and for your time to go up there. But I'm planning on just having them pay the Heritage Center just because I would rather clock those hours rather than get paid myself. But that could be open to anybody. I think they have enough funding for 2 or 3 people to go and attend, and you guys are welcome to attend. I think the next one will be up in National Falls in February, I think the 19th, 20th, and 21st. So that's like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And that Saturday time, they'll be going to Canada during the second half of the day to see what some of the First Nations do for some of their programming revolving around like tourism. But that's pretty much what the Voyageurs Conservancy does, and kind of what I'd be doing within this organization. And if there's any questions, I guess I can feel free to ask. Oh, and then one thing that I am trying to do on a low key is trying to work with them to get our use of rectory rights established within that boundary area, and then hopefully we can have some sort of base establishment for a federal organization recognizing that we have treaty rights within that at least 1866 treaty area. And then hopefully if we do ever go and challenge for those rights, we have those affirmed and have a kind of a way to point back at some of these partnerships that we have in the past. If there's any questions that anybody had?
I have a quick one here. It just says, I fully endorse Jalen Strong's candidacy for the Indigenous Guidance Committee. Is this a done deal if we recommend you, or are you in a running for the?
No, I think they just worded it that way.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, on the link that was on the agenda request, you can see that the kind of the area that they have it, and you can just find like the letter of support link that's on there, and it's just a blank thing that they had, and that's the wordage that they put themselves.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I think that would be a really good idea if you did join this group that you're looking for, is that, a few years ago when we met with them here, actually in the same room, is that one of the things I brought up was for them to share any documentation that they had about our people that lived up in that area, namely the Wooden Frogs. And they never got back to us. So I think that with you being on this committee can help strengthen that relationship that we need to develop with them. And at the same time, start getting the documentation that we need so that we can show that our people were doing what they would have been doing since they signed that 1866 treaty. And I keep talking about this numerous times, that our people, lived all over. The Wooden Frogs up there. My grandma's family, Farmer John's. The Drifts out at Indian Point. The Goods guys out at Sugar Bush. The Wake-em-ups out at the Wake-em-up Village on Lake Vermilion. And it shows that, our people were scattered and they stayed within their respective clans. And so it would be good to get a relationship with them and start getting the documentation that we need. Thank you. With that, I move to approve.
Second.
By Shane, seconded by Janelle. All in favor, say aye. And this was for an approval letter for support for Jalen to serve on the Voyageurs National Park Indigenous Guidance Committee.
And we did get a comment from Larissa Jupe. She's like the, I guess I'm not sure what her role is. She's one of the main contact people for Voyageurs Conservancy. So she did make a comment that we could change that wording if that was needed. Tribal program manager at the Conservancy. But that's her. And then Chanda Blessy. I think Chanda is from Gakijuanong, but she grew up in International Falls, lives down in Duluth currently. And Larissa actually just got her PhD. And what was it, Larissa? What, like PhD in tribal something. It was really cool.
Congratulations. I had a motion on the floor with vote that was seconded. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jalen. Next up, we have Kim Greiner and Ed Shavers teaming up to seek approval of payment for Laserfish contract.
The first item I have is, this would be our third year of a 3-year contract. We had discussion about this last year at the council meeting. And Ed met with these Laserfish at the Tribal Net Conference to see if we could renegotiate the contract. We're currently getting a 50% discount on the Laserfish contract. And if we were to renegotiate it, we would lose that 50% discount. For audience purposes, Laserfish is a software tool for online applications. We've used it a lot. We got it during COVID and CARES Acts for rapid response for applications and processing and distancing, social distancing and stuff. Nope. That's not in there. That one is the online job applications is done through. Sure, yeah, that's different. And so this program we used it for all the COVID assistance programs we did, like the payments. They used it for the emergency rental assistance, and they've used it for the HAF program, which both are still being audited. So those documents are still in their website, in their storage. And so we had a good discussion yesterday at the senior management meeting about it. One of the issues that we had last year when we talked about it was the support services. And Ed talked to them about it
Yeah, they restructured their support services and how they're doing it now, so it's kind of new again.
And so we talked about it and utilizing it again, and I just had a good conversation with Jay when we were on break about it too, so we have the part about user licenses to design and administer programs. And I think Tara and Janelle are probably the two that are familiar with the process of using the Laserfish. So it's really designed to be used by mobile devices. So if you, like if we have a program, someone can do their application right on their phone or iPad or computer. No, I realize not everybody does, you know, like a lot of the elders don't have that, you know, we still have to have a paper process. But it allows people to upload document, take a picture of your document. So like if you have to provide proof of income or a copy of an ID, you just take a picture and upload it in that. So there's the user licenses, and then we also have what are called community licenses that we haven't really developed, and we need to find someone to develop. So as a community member, you would get a user name and you'd put in your demographic information. So when you go to start an application, it pre-populates most of that stuff. It saves your applications. But what I was talking to Jay about is you can do, in the community licenses, we can do a lot more information. So like I was saying, there, and it's private, you can restrict who has access to it. So I said like tracking clans and your Indian name, you know, because like I have some family members that have an Indian name that they don't know what it is and nobody's around anymore, you know, so it'd be nice to kind of, you know, that band member and maybe Jay as the historian, you know, could have access to it, but like me as an accountant, I wouldn't. We can put stuff in there like we can collect demographic information like education, you know, levels of education and professions. So like you could do database searches and try to recruit band members for certain positions. Someone, if we had, you know, this is not an accounting function, I'm just here for the payment, but like you could in there somehow work with the MCT and get what district they vote in there, because that's a question, you know, it's something that I wouldn't have, you know. So there's so many uses to it. And so we had a discussion in the meeting yesterday, and health is currently using it for
It's Southern mental health.
mental health. So if you go to use mental health, you do your whole application on in there. And so the whole system works as well as you design it. So we also had a discussion yesterday about communication at the senior management meeting. So you can put in places in there that it emails you when certain steps are done. So as a client applying for a program, you can have it set up. We have, you know, your application has been submitted. You get an email, you know, they got it, you know. The other problem we're having, we talked about yesterday too, is the US Postal Office is really slow, and it's taking about 3 weeks for normal mail to move now with a lot of our vendors. So having an electronic message like that, you know, and then like, and it's all in design, it's how you design it. You have to think of, you know, the steps. So there's a lot of different applications we could use for it, but we are in our 3rd year of contract, and we need to pay it, and it's over our limits. So we're asking permission to pay the bill. And it's budgeted for in an indirect cost. We did try to negotiate the contract to get it down, but.
So sounds good. I do have a couple questions. I was just wondering if, so this is the 3rd year of the contract, is there other alternatives like moving forward, or, you know, are we going to be able to continue getting that 50% rate if we just stay with them as long as we don't renegotiate the contract? Do we need to keep them?
Well, we need to keep them too, because like
The
we're
audits.
getting the audits, getting
Okay.
the because we have some federal programs that we administered through there.
Yeah.
So we need to keep them for a certain amount of time, but I think if we continue to work with them, they'll give us those rates, you know, but we would do a new contract, you know,
Okay, perfect.
you know, and stuff.
Is there alternatives? I'm sure you guys looked at that before.
I'm sure there are alternatives. So when we got Laserfish, it was owned by some Mille Lacs band members.
Okay.
So we went with it during the original pandemic and got on board with it right away. And then they sold out to, it's called Momentum now.
Mm.
And that's who Ed met with. But there's a lot of stuff we can do with it. And we were directed
at the senior management meeting yesterday to have someone come up and present to programs to use it. But like, someone brought up in the meeting, like Mille Lacs, they do like all their their applications for e-heat on it. And then the one last final thing I wanted to say is when I attended some webinars after the shutdown of how tribes responded, and they talked about planning for future stuff. Some of the more progressive tribes said to make sure that you have some methods to roll out emergency programs. So like there was some of the bigger, wealthier tribes rolled out a food assistance program while SNAP was shut down. And they processed through having an online application process. They processed, like they said, like 2,000 applications in 10 days. And if we have snail mail and we're trying to mail out the application and we wait for it to come back, it's a month, 2 weeks out, 2 weeks coming back. And so.
I have a couple questions.
Mhm.
I might have missed it here, but what is the cost that we need to pay?
It's in there. It's the invoice is on it. It's like 66,000.
$66,949.
Oh, yeah, I see it. Okay, thank you. And then the other question that I have is, on the applications, can it be set up where like the utility application or the housing application or the PRC application could be on these?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think it would be, as the younger generations come in, I think you'd get faster.
They're here already.
Yeah, I know. Because they don't check their mail. They don't,
And then the other comment that I have is, from previously working, or supervising the HAP program, there was a comment, or actually there was an email that I received from an elder, and they were not very happy with the application process because they couldn't maneuver it,
Yeah.
on their phone or whatever. So just to make sure that we have,
Yeah.
Paper, if needed.
Yeah, I'm realizing we're in a transition between generations, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Make sure that we know if there's any limitations, because remember when, that Mille Lacs program
Mhm.
had this before? I was in DNR at the time, and I was asking for a better way to accept applications, and they weren't able to do the land use permit application.
Okay.
Remember, we tried and
Yeah.
we tried, but they just weren't able to do it. So if there's any limitations in the application process, please let us know that too. Thank you.
Just if I could add a little bit, we did have really kind of a lengthy discussion regarding laserfish, and it was kind of the outcome of the discussion was a lot of our staff aren't aware of what it can do. And the forms that we have look pretty generic and basic and just not very good. And so that's where I asked Kim and Eddie, can we have somebody come here and show us what this can do? Because to me, and I believe Eddie was the one who brought it up, is, the PRC applications. It's the same application every year. You have to get the same documents with it every year. That alone sold me, so I wouldn't have to fill out that application every year again. But we just need, I know Tara has begun this, to educate our staff on, what we have available, because with talking with Kim and Eddie, we are just like scratching the surface of what the program can do. So then let's bring them here. Let's
Yeah.
teach our staff and our programs and our services what it can do and how we can streamline the processes and make them more efficient.
The questions I have is that with the money that we're going to be putting towards this, can we use 105L money towards this?
No.
No? Okay. The other question is that
This is indirect cost.
under a cost?
Yep.
Okay. The other question I have is that, with the current programs that we have in place now, and Laserfish covers these programs, if the program or department puts in new programs within this system, is that going to be an additional cost to us for that?
One of the things we need to do is to train our staff, some staff, not all, how to design the forms, because I'm gonna call on Nikki here. Nikki does some forms, you know, and she knows how to design some stuff, you know, simple forms. You may need assistance, you know, like support assistance when you get a very complex form that has decision trees in it, you know, like the HAF program and the ERA program, there was a lot of documentation and different scenarios and how it breaks out into, like, if you imagine a big workflow decision tree. We don't currently have a staff member to do it that, but simple forms are fairly easy to do. The other thing that we can do with this then too is you can do queries on it and find information. So like when we did the emergency or the economic relief checks in there, we can go in and we could, because they had to put an email in there. So we have people's emails, they have phone numbers in there, they have some other demographic, you know, I'm sure a lot of it's changed now, but you know, you can do that.
So yes, there will be added cost if it's something that we cannot do ourselves.
Yeah.
There would be a little added cost access in their support, you know, kind of basically just like if we're accessing support, getting our power line fixed or something put in. It's basically the same thing. We're asking for some support from higher functioning program. Then that program usually would have to cover the cost of that.
Specific for their,
Like we don't have a service contract with them, like a support contract, so that's added on to the other end of it.
Okay, now that leads me to the other question, and since you brought that up, is that if a program doesn't have the funds to do it, what do we do?
well, hopefully we can have some people that can help out, but more complex programs usually have administration dollars that they can use, you know, they regulate. So let's say we're getting a new program. When they write the grant, they should, and they plan to use it, they should write in their grant online, you know, application process costs.
And with that being said, I think we should probably get that out to the programs to add just that, if they're gonna be submitting new grant proposals, to add that in there, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think communicating that, you know, right from the beginning would be good. So then people would know that this is what they need to put in their budgets.
Sounds good. This is a big bill, and then we got training coming up. You requested training on this, so we should evaluate this year whether it's worth it for us before we continue this contract next year. So this is a lot of money, but like you had mentioned, there's probably some good potential that we're not fully utilizing without this training. So hopefully this next year will get us to use these programs a little better. If not, we'll look for a different solution, a different vendor. If there's no further discussion or questions, I ask for a motion to approve this bill. Approval of payment for Laserfish contract by Tara. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Thanks for joining us, Ed.
Thank you.
And I think Kim is just solo on the next ones, the next 5 she's got.
Yep.
First up is approval of the 2026 Employee Christmas Club Match Program. Is there any major changes to speak of, or?
Nope, we have historically brought it to the council for approval. And so there's some statistics on it. I believe this is the 9th year. And from last year, I just got to look at my backup. Put it in my memo. There was 95 employees started the program and 80 qualified for the match. 4 didn't qualify for some reason, 8 left employment, 3 canceled their own payroll deduction. So it is designed after what's called an individual development account, which tries to teach people to save a little bit each you know, in increments and it builds up. So, and it's a match up to 400, up 25% up to $400. It's capped out. You can put more into your Christmas club, you know, at your financial institution. And you can do as little as you want. So if you want to start out at $5, it's, you know, you're still getting a 25% match. Start out small and get used to it.
Perfect. I was waiting for this to come up, hoping to announce it at the Christmas party.
I have a question, Kim. When the money goes into, is deposited for the employees, is there does it earn interest or?
Yeah, it depends on which financial institute you establish. They're called club accounts. There's special rules around them.
Okay.
Usually they are savings accounts and you earn interest.
Okay.
So I look at looking at the total amount is at $29,040.
Mm-hmm.
And
That was the match. Yeah.
that was the match. Okay.
Mhm.
Move to approve.
Moved by Shane to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tara. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried for the approval of the 2026 Employee Christmas Club Match Program. Next, Kim has the approval of a new single premium for healthcare.
Yeah. So we have a self-funded healthcare plan and we set our own premiums. But with the increase in just healthcare in general costs and the increase, because we approved our stop loss increase, because unfortunately our population has a lot of big medical costs, you know, especially because of diabetes mostly and heart stuff. So I'm asking for the premium to be set at $1,764.26 per month, paid for by the programs. And it was already budgeted for and set up that way in the template. It does, I know it sounds like a lot, but I recently had an ER visit and I wasn't even there for 4 hours and the insurance paid $8,000 for that ER visit. So healthcare is just expensive. And this isn't anything to do with like the ACH stuff or the ACA, you know, the Affordable Health Care Act. This is just our own plan. We have a very good plan and healthcare costs are just expensive.
Now, with this increase that's being proposed here and the amounts being charged to the programs, because most of the programs already submitted their request for funding and grants and all that,
It was already set up in that
it was
request.
already setting up before they
Yep.
even did that.
Yep. When we designed the budget, we put the increase in there.
Was it a significant amount of difference that to the budget itself?
I couldn't tell you that, you know, because on the 26 template, it was set up at 1,680. And so this is a 10% increase for the benefits part, for
Okay.
just the healthcare premium.
Okay.
And this is just the single coverage and our single coverage is 100% paid by the tribal government from the programs.
Okay.
Kim, just to be clear, there's no increased cost to employees for family coverage?
No, next year we're going to have to look at the family coverage.
Thank you.
Kim, what is to renegotiate the direct contract support cost with IHS. What is that? Or do you foresee any problems in
No.
doing that?
No, so you remember, well, you were still health director several years ago, we went to Bemidji and we worked on this. So to employ a tribal employee costs more than to employ an IHS staff member. And so we negotiated some direct contract support costs. And one of the big factors in there is healthcare. So you have to realize that we have about 250 employees and that's our pool. The federal government has a great big pool, so they get to spread the costs out. You know, they don't have, they have a bigger pool to draw from, so they have lower costs. So part of that is that. And so Chris Poole has said that we ask for technical assistance. We look at it, and if it's an increase, if it would result in an increase, then we negotiate. And we ask for the technical assistance, because if we just put it in and not ask for it, they have to give us the lower of the two. So we do that. And we haven't done that for a while. And there was a couple other things that we've kind of changed up for IHS. Like IHS pays for all of HHS's legal fees now. So that was never negotiated in there. And then what was the other thing? We were going to try, we were trying to be creative and ask for the cost of the electronic health records, because our PMS is so unusable that we went out and got our own. So there was a couple of things we were going to try to maximize money from IHS.
So how does that work out with them? You talked about single family coverage. What about like the married and all that? Yeah, this the other coverage is just.
That's family. We have, so the single coverage, everybody who is an employee that's covered, their program pays the single coverage part. If you have family coverage, and it doesn't matter how many people there are, it's about $500 a month, a little less than 500.
Isn't it $398?
I couldn't remember what it was.
$398.
That's what the employees pay to cover their stuff. In 26, we're not raising the family side, but in 27, we need to look at it and raise it on the family contribution side.
Kim, I remember we used to shop our plan every 2 or 3 years. When was it last shopped?
Oh, man. It's been a long time.
Because I believe Susan at Fortune Bay would like to shop the plan. So that's probably something we want to take a look at in 2026.
Okay.
And I'd also
Simona.
suggest that, that we include staff from up at the clinic there, or that's familiar with what's covered and what wouldn't be covered.
Yeah, we, like when we have our renewal plans, we invite some people from the clinic to have input on it too, so.
No concerns from legal? Or you pleading a fifth?
No concerns.
Move to approve.
Moved by Shane. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Me. Any silent? Motion carried. I don't get a vote. I was just kidding.
All right. The next item I have is approval of the fiscal year 23 indirect cost proposal and authorizing the chair to sign the certification. This is the document I prepare for the indirect cost proposal. It's long. And so it's requesting for Carlos Hernandez as chair to sign the certification page and submit the fiscal year 23 indirect cost proposal rate at a rate of 22.15. When we closed the programs, we had closed at 22.4. The negotiated amount will change slightly as we go through the process. So we're pretty much on target for what we closed it out at. There may be a few things we have to do. We are behind because I need audits finished before I can submit one, because we reconcile an audit because there's a carry forward factored for over and under collections that play into a future year negotiation. So I need to get this submitted for the audit and to be able to start working on what's called for the 2020 IHS contract support claim, cost claim information, just too many C's in there. Which is a big project that myself, James, and Jeff have been working on for years, getting more money for IHS or back in for the tribe as a whole. So this goes to the Internal Business Center, which is a part of the BIA. I'm not going to get into what goes into a negotiation for it. I am setting up a training in January for council, senior management and program directors, in depth. And those who want to come can come and learn how the indirect cost rate works and all that.
I was gonna take a recess. It's that hour break again. So I'm gonna ask for just a 5-minute break. I just gotta go get some water. All right, we're gonna take a 5-minute break here before we vote on this. Get Shane back too. Thank you.
Sorry, Gabe, we'll get to you.
All right. We're going to proceed. I came off of explaining the approval of the fiscal year 2023 indirect cost proposal and authorizing the chair to sign. Is that where we were at?
Mhm. And there's not much I can change because it's basically historical data anyway, so.
There a motion on the table?
No, we left before we even talked about.
Can I make a motion?
Mhm.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Tara, seconded by Janelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Next is a discussion, indirect cost shortfall.
Yep, I received a message that they'd like kind of an overview of, and it's a basic overview of the indirect cost shortfalls of the program. So you have an attached worksheet, but here's some numbers. So the total shortfall for federal programs is 428,432. And this is based off this proposal. Federal shortfall is 428,432. Of this number, of that alone, $195,032 is due to the Head Start's limitation on indirect costs. Another 75,199 is related to HHS programs. And a lot of programs have different year ends. There's multi-factors. There's not a straight across answer and list that we have of what it is, who has limits on their programs. When a program does their budget, they put their limit on their budget template, and we figure it out from there. So of that money, of that federal fund, some of the rest of the shortfall gets made up through what's called the carry forward rate adjustment, which I will explain in the training in January. So then some other information for the state and other grants, the shortfall is 132,707 due to various reasons, mainly due to rate limitations. Those are the state and other grants. And of that dollar amount, 77,806 is part of IHS programs. Then the last section is for tribal funds. The shortfall is 374,973. And most of that is for programs that the tribal council waived indirect on over the years. So like water and sewer, solid waste, heritage center. I think there's like the conservation committee, some various other ones. We still have to figure out the rate calculation, and there's still the cost. So it's still a shortfall. So, so then the attached sheets, you can see the shortfall amount. There's a column for a shortfall amount, how much is IHS and how much was waived by council, if you're interested in various programs. And some of the IHS shortfall is part of, as we work through the claims against IHS for the contract shortfalls, it's in there because we have to use their data from our indirect cost proposals.
This is a discussion.
Yeah. I just labeled it as a discussion. I was asked to present something, so I put it on of how much it was. So
Okay.
if you have questions.
I do have questions, but I think they would be answered in that training you have
Mhm.
coming up in January.
Yeah, it's not a yes or no answer for a lot of things, how it gets handled. So I think in the in-depth training, it would be a good time to learn.
Okay.
Yep.
And you're presenting this at the request of a previous request, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
sounds good. Sounds good. Any other questions before we move forward on this discussion? This was just a discussion based on a previous request. So I'm pretty sure this is the information that was requested, and if there's no further discussion at this time, we'll move on. The policy of use of vehicles for Bois Forte tribal government employees.
Yeah, it's more around the insurability and who's allowed to operate RTC vehicles. For historical purposes, when we would do checks to see if people were eligible, the main crux around this is this one, is when we used to do checks for seeing who's eligible to be insured and drive our vehicles. We did not check tribal court records and this topic has come up several times before the tribal council, and they had elected not to check the tribal court records because they felt it was a barrier to employment. Recently, we've had some issues that really open up some touchy situations. And mostly it was around liability. Although Jeff can speak more on this. If we knew someone had a bad driving record and they hurt or killed someone and they had a good attorney, they probably would be suing the organization and individual people. But he can explain the law, even though that there's a defense against it and stuff. It's very stressful and takes a lot of resources to defend against that. So the biggest thing here is it's incorporating checking tribal court records, which then also gives validation to our cops and our court systems too, to do that and protect, you know, do that. Couple of other things in there is, so it would include checking tribal court for driving records, where the person that would check the records, because most of this comes through the background anyways, it would be the background investigator. And we developed a point system to be able to be eligible to drive. If there's certain things, if you hit a threshold, you know, we have to roll this out and train people so they understand. But you know, if they hit the threshold, they lose their driving privileges, which may or may not result in not being able to do their position. Depends on how much their position depends on driving records. I did have this on the last agenda, but I had to have it tabled because when Boyd, our insurance agent, was here, we were talking. One thing is if an employee doesn't have any other like major accidents or major things, incidents on their record, and they have get a DUI, if they get their license back or they get a letter from the state after 6 months, you know, and this is our current policy, after 6 months, if they have a valid license, you know, that's the biggest crux of all this. They have to have a valid license. They would be eligible to drive with, they have to sign a agreement for 3 years and then they get randomly tested to verify that. So the question came up because in the recent years, the state has issued letters that if individuals are required to have the ignition locks, you know, the breathalyzer ignition locks on their cars, that they don't have to have it on their work vehicles if they have it on their personal vehicles. And there's some letters that have come from the state. I haven't seen them, you know, because that's between the supervisor and HR. But one of the things is that we did verify with Boyd, they still have to have that 6-month waiting period that they cannot drive any Boys Fort vehicles. Still have that, so that was, we were just, because Boyd had mentioned at first, he's going, we got to check with the insurance company. We verified that, so it's the 6, you know, we still have to have the 6-month in there. And then we actually have a written policy too about insurability, and it does address you also have to have a good driving record to get reimbursement as mileage, because when you use your personal vehicle for an employment purpose, at that point it becomes really an RTC operated vehicle. And we did define, because we were very conscious of having barriers, that there is a definition of, you know, of how much, you know, a person on occasion that uses it, like you go to training once a year, you know, that's different versus someone who uses their vehicle 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. So people who, you know, we're just trying to protect the organization and our resources, I guess, is the basis for this. So
Sounds good. So I guess it would just be an update to the policy, right? And
it's an actual written policy. We just used to have a list, a 1-page list, basically, of what
Okay.
would disqualify you. Now there's an actual policy, you know.
so this one's new. The one that this policy I'm looking at is a new one.
It's brand new.
Sounds good.
So is the towing of Boys Fort owned trailers something new, or has this been in the policy before? Because I don't think I've seen it.
It's relatively new. It's in the water trailer policy is where it came out. So if you're using a personal vehicle to tow a Boys Fort trailer, your personal insurance has to meet our insurance levels. And that came out of when we got the water trailer for that. That's where that one came out.
This, just a quick note too, I think it is, it's a lot more detailed of a policy, I would say. So that is a change. It still covers sort of the same gist of what the prior policy covered. I do think though there's, because this is a little more structured, it will involve an important step on the front end, which is identifying the positions that are covered that, you know, require motor vehicle use on at least a weekly basis as a part of their jobs. There's going to be that front end identification of the group of positions that fit in that category. And then that should be obviously put on the job description so it's clear. And then, you know, moving forward, any new hires or individuals in those positions will then be subject to the background and the assessment up front under this policy to make sure that they're eligible under the policy to be able to have driving privileges. So there's that step kind of involved as well. Just wanted to note that.
The thanks, Jeff. I had forgot about that. So there's some older job descriptions that have like driver's license requirements in it. So I'm going to use one in accounting, and I got to go back and double check it. So when we used to have the courier position, we had people who had to have driver's licenses that would either do that regularly or fill in. So now I got to go back to double check to make sure that, because we don't do the driving anymore, that's not in there anymore. Not needed. So Kim, I have 2 questions. So if we have an employee under the new policy here, they go through the verification process, the check, and they are determined ineligible to be on the insurance, is there an appeal process, or is there, you know, or is just the decision made and that's it? We did not include an appeal process. It was because we kind of had talked about not appeal process and say, but we had talked about going retroactive, you know, like looking backwards. And it was indicated that, yes, the current employees need to be looked at too. So I would say, no, you know, because there's it basically evolves around a 3-year window.
Okay.
Prior to that, so,
Okay. Then my other question, and I just want to clarify,
yeah,
and I'll use myself as an example.
Yep.
Okay. Right now, I don't need to be on the RTC insurance because I don't drive an RTC vehicle,
correct.
but I often claim mileage reimbursement.
Yep.
So now I and any other employee who isn't required to be on the RTC insurance will have their driving records checked and a determination made whether you are eligible for mileage reimbursements.
To be driving, period, because when you're in an employee and you're out performing services, and your employer is responsible for your actions, but there's a definition in here of trying to remember where it was at, but we kind of defined where it was, how much time it was, you know, how often you drive. So like someone who goes to training once a year is different from someone who's doing a regular stuff. Remember which section it was under, Jeff?
I think there's language under 5 that says, in order to operate a tribal government vehicle, employee is required, who is required to operate a motor vehicle for business purpose on at least a weekly basis, must satisfy all the following requirements. So
So, yes.
that's just a, yeah.
If they
Yep.
meet that,
Then they have to have their driving record checked. And if they have really bad driving records, let's say, by this policy, they wouldn't be able to drive to do those duties because they're not, you know, because of liability reasons.
okay.
Yeah.
So then what happens? I mean, they're not eligible for mileage reimbursement, but if they're still gonna drive and go to meetings and such, right? Do we still have that liability at that point?
We still, so this is where it gets sticky and I'm not a lawyer. I'm glad Jeff is here today.
Sorry, I jinxed us.
Even though, because I think there's a level of liability, a higher level of responsibility, because you know that person has a bad driving record, but you're allowing them to drive, you know, it was, you know, it opens up a whole can of worms.
So what I would say is just like, this policy is about striking the balance ultimately between trying to mitigate liability and reduce exposure for the tribal government for probably the most obvious situations of placing an employee in a vehicle for work purposes who clearly has, a recent issues with a driving record that could expose the tribal government. That's got to be balanced against access to employees being able to do their job. And so this is an attempt to strike that balance in here, but there are pieces in here that I think if there is a need for more discussion, do need to be vetted out, because this is important. It will mean that employees can or can't have driving privileges. And so where the balance is exactly struck is a thing that deserves good discussion and thoughtfulness, I think, because it'll affect employees. So, I mean, from a legal standpoint, the liability piece is the very broad concept of making sure that, there are some standards in place so that individuals with recent serious driving records are limited in some way or not driving as a part of their job. Where the lines exactly get set, that's a discretionary decision for Boys Forward, and I think is really important to work through this and kind of meaningfully decide it. So I don't know if that's helpful, other than to say, changes on this policy will have impacts on employees. So I think the standards for what's disqualifying, who it applies to, all those are really important to be thought out well.
And we did try to, those that regularly drive and that don't, and so this was our first attempt at defining that.
Who went over this? Did senior management or executive team or just you and Jeff?
Jeff and I and the people who work on insurance. And I believe the executive team had an opportunity to make comments. I remember I posted, sharing it somewhere.
And was this initiated by our insurance company?
No, it's initiated by a series of situations that happen that kind of opened our eyes that we may need to like look at some situations to do this.
Okay, all right. The reason I ask that is because you said, who has it driving, incidences, or
Oh,
I know you're saying that arbitrarily to
yeah, I don't
anybody.
even know. It really.
I don't know,
Yeah.
You
think-
may know more about what's going on than I do.
No,
I just, who is making the final decision about this?
there's gonna,
Who can drive and who can't?
so the plan is there's gonna be a worksheet then, and then the background investigator gets the actual records, and if there's a score sheet, so there's some things that disqualify you. And then like, if you have, so on page 3 in section 6, and so in C, so incurring 6+ points based on violations or events within the past 36 months outlined below. So for an at-fault crash, you get 3. So if you get 2 at-fault.
I read through that already. Who is deciding this? The supervisor, you,
No, and it's
the
not,
insurance company?
no, it's a back, because it's going to start at the background, but then I think it would lie with the supervisor, because I don't know who has, stuff like that. It's
I really want to make sure that this is, I have reservations.
yeah. Well, if you
Because
don't,
I
if you
have,
want
I
us
have
to,
a feeling that this could be used against people.
yeah,
And things within the organization that I've seen in my 3 years hasn't been consistent.
Yeah. If you want it to go back for more discussion, that's fine. It's, we're trying to develop a good policy,
I really do understand and appreciate that you're trying to look out for the band's liability,
Yeah.
but also we are coming down on employees so
Yeah.
hard and harshly, it seems like. And then we're not providing an avenue for them to come back.
Hmm.
If they made a mistake, however many years ago, or, within the last 5 years or whatever, they should be able to do steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and then become eligible and, and drive for us. We need workers. We can't keep pushing them down and cutting them off and providing, nothing for them to come back on. I know we help here and there with violations. I understand that we do help with their car and getting them fixed. But, I understand that there are things that are happening, but let's find a program, or let's find a way that they can come back and restore and be eligible. Instead of going back into history and saying no, because then we are cutting off a lot of our employees that we have now. What if we do have employees that we have to, once we get this implemented and pretty soon we lose 20 employees, how are we going to get those employees back on track? I want to make sure that we're doing, if we're going to, like I always say, if we're going to punish, then we should be able to bring those employees back and have a recovery process for that. That's what I'm concerned with.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And so one of the things, it's not the ideal answer, but as their violations fall off, so it's a 3-year look back, they can, so like they have one mitigating, factor, and that falls off, then they're back within the the thing, you know, they're eligible to drive again and,
And my concern is
uh-huh,
that I don't know who is making the decisions,
yeah.
but that you let employee A squeeze by with whatever,
Mhm.
and then you just say no to employee B,
Yeah,
because there has been inconsistencies in the
Mhm.
past.
and I think that's probably what we're trying to attempt to have a consistent, you know, trying.
I think, we should have more discussion on this before we decide to go forward with it. Has this been shared at all with, senior management?
I don't think so. I think we kept it at least at the executive level. We didn't bring it down to senior management.
I guess my feeling is that being a previous senior management, person,
Mhm.
I would appreciate to have that information, you know, to look at it
Okay.
and discuss it with the staff. So that's just my comment.
I believe we've discussed it, but the
Mhm.
policy has not been shared with
Yeah.
with the entire senior management.
So with those comments, it's fine to table it and we can bring it back in after the first of the year, after we have input from senior management and a discussion at the council, wants a more in-depth discussion.
And then the other question that I have is, once this is approved, is it gonna happen right, you know, at the day that it's approved, or is there gonna be a phase-in period, or what's the process on
We
that?
would just have to pick an effective date.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to, continue the discussion and then, look at the pros and cons, you know, for myself as example. Now, I was given 4 different, background checks for driving. 1, because I'm a council member. 2, ambulance. 3, fire department. And 4, because I use a booster seat. No, just kidding.
I'm like, what?
Just kidding. But yeah, I think that's a good idea though. Bring it back for discussion and
Okay.
hammer out all the stuff, details. Thank you.
Second.
Seconded. And third. Moved by Tara, second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Thanks, Kim. All right, next up, we have online joining us, Mark Salmella and Rhiannon Strong, talking about an approval of Head Start transportation policy.
Morning, everybody. Thank
Morning.
you for having us today. We're just putting through our transportation policy. This is just for our families and children. And I'm gonna pass it over to Mark so that he can explain a little bit about it. You ready, Mark?
Okay, yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. The transportation policy that was in effect when I came here is the same one that's been for 10 years. Oh, by the way, Shane, I might be eligible for a booster seat also. So we needed to kind of go through this and look for any things that were missing. And so this is basically the transportation policy that comes from the office of Head Start. But one of the things that was glaringly missing was the post-accident procedures. So if you were to look on if you have copies of it, 1303.72 under vehicle operation, and we inserted a whole new section on post-accident procedures because we've had nothing to deal with. What do we do when we have an accident? There's just nothing in the policy. So it's pretty much the same as what it was. We made a few corrections. Then it went through Jeff, and originally, I think the major change on this was that the state patrol needed to be notified, but when we're on the reservation, it may not be a possibility, so we need to use the local police as the one who are doing that. And so this covers both Vermilion and Nett Lake. And so we basically filled in the post-accident procedures, which was never there. And that's the last one in that. If you guys have read it or looked through it, you might be familiar with that. And so okay, basically that's the summary.
Any concerns from legal?
Pardon?
No, no
didn't-
concerns. The red lines and changes you see in here are from us. This, a lot of the performance standards, sort of the template incorporate state requirements, and that's why you see Minnesota State Patrol. So what we did is we just mainly looked at this to see if it needed to be tailored at all, given the fact that it's a tribal Head Start program, and so the tweaks that Mark talked about are kind of reflected in here. So no concerns.
Move to approve.
I have a question. Before we approve, the post-accident procedures, it shows, site supervisor, what you should be doing. Are there, I know that you still follow Boys Fort policy, so will they be tested, for post-accident testing also?
Yeah.
But it's just not in here?
I thought it was.
It is on number 7 in the
It's on number
post-accident
7?
procedure. Yep.
Okay, because it's not on the
Yeah.
post-accident part. Okay.
Yeah, we had a little issue with that over in Vermilion because they were requesting that they leave the scene before the in this case it was, I think it was it on the res or what before the law enforcement got there, and the law enforcement said that you could be cited for leaving the scene. So we had to clarify that with them, that until the law enforcement gives the okay, then they can go immediately for the drug test. So that was kind of an issue that we had to deal with. So that's why it says the driver must remain on the scene until released by law enforcement.
Okay.
Sounds good. We got a motion by Shane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Thank you much, Mark and Rhiannon.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for taking care of it for us.
Thank you for your time today, guys.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Rhiannon. All right, next
You're
up,
welcome.
we have Terry Morrison. Thank you for joining us, Terry.
Who's you?
Okay, my first item is for a partner agreement for the food bank, which is called the Food Group. And that's a food bank that we get our food for both food shelves, Vermilion and Nett Lake. So the 2025 one is just for Vermilion because we just opened, so we needed agreement in place. And then the 2026 is for Nett Lake and Vermilion for next year. I figured since I was coming, we'd do it all. So that just allows us to order food from them. They have certain regulations. We do get some federal food that is free, but the majority of it we do purchase. But the free stuff has some rules and regulations, such as we have to be open to everyone. We can't turn anyone away. There's paperwork we have to do that we keep on site, that kind of stuff, which we have in place. So, and certain reporting that's required, which is just the number of households, the number of pounds of food, and then breakdown of numbers for children, adults, and elders.
Sounds good. Did you need authorization for the chair to sign for this one?
I do.
Awesome. We'll just make sure we add that. Is there any questions from council?
How does that work with the inspection of the food itself? You know, when they're bringing it from there to here? Do they say, yep, everything's good, here's the certification?
Not sure what you're asking. They certify the food before they bring it here, but we still look at it when we get it. So if like the fresh food is rotten, then we go back to them and say, hey, we received this, and then they'll credit us for that account. We also do the same for expired food and that kind of stuff. And then they do notify us when there are recalls. So then if there's a recall on any of the food, we pull it.
That was gonna be my second question. Thank you.
Yep.
I move to approve.
We got a motion to approve the approval of partner agreement with Food Group Food Bank and the authorization to sign for the chair. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Next, Terry's going to talk about the approval of a Title III grant amendment from Red Lake.
So I previously brought this in August, and since then they've extended the time from expiring the end of December this year until June of next year. And then they've also increased the dollar amount. So previously it was $83,006 and currently it's $99,250. Of that amount, $50,000 has a 15% match, and that's $7,500 that we're going to be covering out of either transportation or some salary. We do this program, which I didn't tell you. This program is Title III, and it covers home delivered meals for elders.
Sounds good. And it sounds like you mentioned you had already allocated that 7,500 from
Correct.
another spot. Okay. There's no questions.
I move to approve.
Moved by Tara. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Thank you for joining us today, Terry.
Igwich.
Next up, we have Terry Defoe. She's going to be talking to us about a contract with a statement of work for number 3 to service agreement with BCBSM. Thank you for joining us, Terry. There it is. Now it's on.
Bonjour. I always feel like we should play the Price is Right tune when we're running in. Okay, this is a 3rd-year agreement. So it pays for our ship and tobacco, like our Blue Cross Blue Shield. We get monies from them and we use it to support staffing for our ship and tobacco. They contribute to that. And then we provide a work plan, and then we work through the work plan, and then they reimburse us for the duties that we've carried out in that statement of work. This is a 3rd year. And then next year is like a master grant. So next year they start that process over, but we get the tobacco funds through the Blue Cross Blue Shield with the settlement monies. So it does a lot of good work in our communities. So just asking to have a chairperson signature. And then they need it as soon as possible because our monies come in January 1st. And this was, I put in for this in November. So if I can get it signed, that I'm requesting that it be signed and then returned to me so I can return it to the state, our Blue Cross Blue Shield.
No concerns from Jeff?
Nope, no concerns. I took a look.
Move to approve.
Moved by Shane to approve the contract,
Second.
second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Thank you for joining us today.
Miigwech.
Miigwech. Giggle Wobbleman. Next up, Teresa Drift and Melita Spears. Come on down. All right. Resolution number 49-2026, annual housing and urban development mandated point in time and housing inventory counts. Data sharing with Minnesota Tribal Collaborative and St. Louis County.
So hello, I'm Teresa Drift. I'm the Housing Stability Programs Manager, and this is.
Hi, Melita Spears. I'm the Housing Resource Case Manager, and I'm also the tribal collaborative person. Thank you.
The appointed representative to the Minnesota Tribal Collaborative. And we're here today to present our annual resolution for the annual point in time count.
Okay. So the point in time count is mandated by HUD each year. We do this on the Boys Fort Reservation. It counts the number of people who are homeless on one specific night in January. So we would like to do this January 2026. And the band retains full ownership of the data that's collected during the pit count, and we use it for grant applications and funding requests.
And this particular resolution is to share this data with the Minnesota Tribal Collaborative and St. Louis County to help us with our funding and our current funding and aggregate data for, so we know how many folks are homeless or unhoused on the reservation.
What is a pit count?
PIT stands for point in time count. And HUD chooses a night in January. It's usually the last week of January when it's really cold, which I don't know why they do it then, but and then anybody who is not sleeping in a fixed location, or it might be sleeping rough or is in shelter would be counted as homeless on that night. So we have kind of a leeway of about a week, I think, to actually count folks. So, yeah, so that just helps demonstrate the need for additional housing on the reservation and services. Yeah, so Boys Fort does, Minnesota Housing does, HUD does not. So we collect that information, but we don't report that to HUD because they don't think that people sleeping on somebody else's couches are homeless. I'll have to take that up with them. It's an ongoing struggle.
But yeah, we do ask the question, and so we do have that information. And then what we did last year is because you do get a week, so they pick a night, and from that night you get a week. So if like clients come in, we ask them where they slept, and so we can gather that information for a whole week. And then last year, a coworker and we actually went to the places where I think you guys know where home encampments are here. So we went there and we did, we got the most data we've ever had by just reaching out to the population.
I was going to say that Melita and Justina really went above and beyond last year for the pit count and collected a lot of information, and it was noticed by other services and stuff that our data was much better this year. So it's a fun to. She said it before I got a chance to, so, but I just wanted to acknowledge that their hard work last year, because that's not easy in January to go track people down. So thank you for that.
Another questions I have is that, it talks about how, Boys Fort will be sharing with the other tribal governments regarding the, efforts to address homelessness on and off the reservation. Will the other reservations be sharing their data with us, especially regarding Boys Fort band members around their areas or on their reservations?
That's a good question. I don't know if I don't know that. So I know we share within the tribal collaborative, but we haven't, as far as I know, reached out to other tribal governments to ask them for data specific to Boys Fort band members. I don't know if there's a report that we can pull up in the HMIS system, which is the Homeless Management Information System, that would show us all band members across the state. That's a good question, though. I can care about that.
Yeah, that'd be a good follow-up. With that, any concerns from Jeff?
No, I took a look at the resolution and this is similar to the resolutions for prior pit counts that the council's done, so.
Move to approve.
Motion on the floor to approve resolution 49-2026. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Thank you, Teresa and Melita, for joining us today.
If anyone wants to volunteer to help in January, let us know.
Sounds good. Looking for some volunteers in January to assist with the count. Next up, we have Davell Jones. I'm gonna push, you know what? We're gonna hold. It's 12 o'clock. Oh, we're gonna take a lunch break? I was just gonna take a 10-minute break because we only got Miranda's left and Davell. 10 or we're gonna take a lunch break? 10-minute break. 10-minute break. 1 minute warning. All right, 12:11. We're going to continue our meeting. Next up, we have Davell Jones and Simona Benner talking about resolution 50-2026, approving the restated 125 plan. 125 plan, 125 plan. We'll hear how it's really said in just a moment here. Thank you for joining us. So this is our cafeteria plan.
Yep.
Any major changes?
We're updating it.
Yes.
Many major changes. Okay.
So previous to this, we had a flexible spending plan. It's old, it's outdated. One of our accounting staff was really our resident expert, and when she retired, our flexible spending plan just kind of stayed, and we haven't updated it. This program will be administered by an outside company, where currently we administer it in-house. And so there's a lot of updates to our plan. We're going to have a really good plan document now. There is the possibility of employees receiving reimbursements from the flex or cafeteria plan, whichever you want to call it, through a card versus getting a check in the mail. They can still get a check in the mail. We worked with the company and we worked with Jeff. Jeff reviewed the contract agreement with the company, made some changes that we needed, and so now it's presented to council for formal approval.
Sounds good. You had mentioned that this would move this offsite. Is that only going to alleviate some of the workload for somebody here, or is it going to eliminate a position?
No, it won't eliminate a position.
It's just alleviating workload.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
There will be program costs, however, that will be built into the program costs for the staff that participates. So most staff, not all, but most staff are eligible to participate. They have to sign up by yesterday. And so the eligible staff, those particular programs will pay the fees associated with participation.
And I think, from how I understand it is because, is this the same one where we're gonna have the third party administrator do this because we were out of compliance, or is that something different? Remember I asked you, maybe it's something different.
I don't know if I want to say we were out of compliance, but we needed some updating and
Okay.
And yeah, just to clarify that, I think the plan itself, the prior plan met all the Internal Revenue Code requirements. What happens with these flex plans a lot though, is that the Congress will update, or the Internal Revenue Service will update additional flexible offers like, oh, you can have a grace period, or there's additional flexibility for rollovers and things like that. And if you don't update in your plan, the employees don't get those benefits. So the plan was compliant, but the employees weren't getting those updated benefits and changes that were occurring, every year or two. And now that'll happen. This plan will be nimble and flexible and will be continued to be updated as things are updated in the Internal Revenue Code. So the employees will be able to get those benefits. And also, I think really importantly too, I think you'll probably save in legal costs over the long run significantly, because questions that would come to me relative to the specifics of how this works can now be put to a plan administrator who has kind of expertise in this area and knows the plan really well, and employees can also go to them as well. So I think in the long run, it probably will save money. Not to belabor it too, but this resolution does a ton. It amends and adopts the new plan, the new summary plan description, the adoption agreement. It approves the agreement with the third-party administrator for their services. And then it also approves the business associate agreement that needs to be in place to ensure HIPAA compliance, because the plan will, interact with some health information due to health premiums and things like that. So the resolution combines approval for all those things into one package.
I have just a simple question for HR, whoever can evaluate this. Is this a better plan than previous?
I believe
So
it is.
can we use that as a selling point or recruitment point?
Yes.
I think people, our directors, our managers, or whoever, is trying to hire people, we really need to start touting our benefits.
Yep.
Because we have the best.
When we hire, I was thinking with when we have employee orientation. Kind of. Yes, I was gonna have the person that does the program, or Jocelyn, and ask her if she can maybe get me a video or get me, or if she can hop on for a few minutes and explain a little bit about the plan itself. Like, sure, I'm almost interested in it, but I don't know how much to put aside. Like, I was thinking about it, so I was thinking maybe next year I'll sign up because I want to get new glasses and I want to get new, things. So, just haven't had really time to think about it. So,
Okay,
everything else that's been going on.
good. I mean, I'm glad that we're adding to our insurance plans, and it's really a good idea because we need to recruit people, and we have the best insurances, I think, but.
So the enrollment date came and went, and so those people that didn't sign up missed out now till next year, or?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And we did go over it at the all-staff holiday party last week.
And Dave, I'll put it in the Teams page.
Yeah. And if-
So there was communication given to employees, and I usually participate, and I missed the deadline. But I knew about it, and so employees were aware.
I don't know if it's in there, but I think requested to have Miranda sign off on the administrative service agreement. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's in there. There's no further questions or discussions. Ask for a motion to approve resolution 50-2026, approving the restated 125 plan.
Move.
Moved by Tara. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Thank you, Dave Al. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff and Miranda.
Next, I'd like Miranda Lilia to join us. First, we're going to be talking about an appointment to the MCT TEC Natural Resources Environment Subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I love how you say my last name. So the first item I have on the agenda is the appointment to the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Tribal Executive Committee Subcommittee, which is the Natural Resources Environmental Subcommittee. Boys Fort had a representative on this subcommittee. However, it was vacated with the resignation of the recent resignation of the previous District 1 representative. In your packet, I have for your information current sitting members of TEC, Tribal Executive Committee, and the subcommittees, which is for Finance, Representative Drift, District 1 Representative Drift. Human Services and Education is District 2 Representative Moyer. The Legislative Subcommittee is Secretary Treasurer Gizik, and so we need to appoint one of our council members to the Natural Resources Environmental Subcommittee.
Can I nominate Janelle Gogolai to that position?
Yes? No one's answering, so I'll answer yes.
Do I have a second for the nomination of Janelle Gogolai to the Natural Resources Environmental Subcommittee? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried.
Carlos, excuse me, I don't think I should vote on this, right? I mean,
You can stay silent if you want. I mean, it wouldn't affect the outcome, but it's up to you.
okay. Yeah, I'll be silent.
Okay. Janelle silent. Mo. Still carried though, Janelle. Thank you.
Who seconded it?
Tara.
Tara,
Who made the motion?
I nominated her.
Oh, okay.
Next thing on the agenda, I have a request for the approval of the Amarant insurance policy for 2026. It is a renewal.
If there's no questions, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion on the floor to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Shane. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Next on the agenda is a policy for the Boys Fort Housing Essential Family Policy amended.
So council, I request at this time that both policies be tabled as they need to be revised. And we will send them to you in final form for approval.
I forgot I was gonna table these when I got to them. I asked for a motion to table C and D. Moved by Shane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tara. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Under other, we have a discussion. I forgot exactly what it's called, the Vermillion office for add discussion for the Vermillion Public's Work Building and Robert's office over there, I think it was.
Yes. So when the grant was originally written and applied for, the maintenance department wasn't its own separate department at that time. The maintenance staff were underneath Public Works. And so when the grant was written, it was written for a Public Works facility. Since the grant was written and approved, the building built, maintenance has now come into its own department. And so with, numerous meetings, discussions, it was determined that the programs and departments that would go into that building are Public Works, maintenance, Vermillion maintenance, food shelf, and Head Start for the bus. So right now, we've gone forward with that plan. I've asked Jim Bardo to determine the percentage of occupancy and what those programs would need to pay for rent to be in that building. A few times it has come about that District 2 representative would like to move his office over there. We had a meeting. It was determined that he wouldn't go in there, but the request has come up again. And so, if we are going to move the District 2 representative's office to that building, it should be a tribal council decision, as, with the rent, that's going to be an additional cost for the tribal government.
Time.
I requested being in there. And, this came about originally a few years before I even was elected. The plan was having me and Kev's office in there and trying to get this, things, just sorted out at the government center, opening up space and, and whatnot. But, I just really would want to stick to that original plan. And, I still get asked by people, when am I getting in my new office? Because this was in the plans for years. I mean, even when we did the groundbreaking, IRRB, VIII, our own newspaper, Brian, asked me when am I going to be there, and it's like, now I got to tell them now I'm not going to be there because other people say I shouldn't be there, or whatever the heck is going on here. And I'm just saying I should be there. That was one of the original plans, and I'll stick by that. Thank you.
Hi, Robert, this is Tara. I was in discussions when this first came up and they were starting to go forward with it. And it looked like it was gonna actually be built. And I had never heard that the District 2 rep was gonna be in that building. it was pitched to me, and you've heard this from me before, that it was a public works building with some food shelf, inside, and then one bay for Head Start. And that was it. I would say, very respectfully, if you want a new District 2 RTG office in Vermillion, I would help you accomplish that. And this would be more incentive for us to work together to get that done. But for Public Works Vermillion right now, I do not want to turn that into an RTG building because it wasn't proposed that way. And we will be losing 105L funds if you go in there. And then we'll be paying out of our indirect cost tribal funds for you to be in there. Miigwech.
Would it be coming back in a different 105 fund to the same damn thing as the invoice?
No,
for it?
you are not BIA and you are not IHS.
Sounds
This,
like I know that we can have some more discussion on this. I think we should move this to a Monday meeting. Unless you want to continue it here, Robert. But I think we could get it. I think we can accomplish more on a Monday meeting than right now.
I'll just add a small, nothing major. It's just that, this was pitched well before we got into office and this came about. This came about when Jesus, Chief was still our representative. So we came into the talks when the building was being put together with the contractors, not contractors, the A&E, what's a DSG. We had those meetings. I was in those meetings. We had a different location. We got that location changed. It was always being said my office was going to be in there in those meetings since I started on council, but it was started before I even got on council. So I'm just going with how we envisioned this happening. It was happening before us getting on this council. Thank you.
Sounds good. Carol's coming up to the stand to speak.
Hi, Robert. Yeah, he was originally in those planning meetings when we were talking about it. When I started, the grant had already been awarded. And so it was like, we need to get this built and it had to be done fast. Especially because we were using ARPA dollars at the same time. But when we were planning it, I didn't know that Kevin was moved to maintenance. So it was always a public works and he worked for Joel, last I knew. So when we started planning that's why they were included into this meeting. And the planning meeting. So it was always Kevin was going to go in one and Robert in the other. And then when it came about that it's a public works building and Kevin's not public works and it got changed, that's where the snafu came in. So, this was a huge learning curve for everyone, me included. And I apologize for any confusion because of that, but that's how it started when we were doing the meetings with DSGW and the contractor and designing the building. And so just to give you a little history, that's what I wanted to come up and let you know.
Sounds good. And this is the exact reason why we wanted that planning for this new building.
Yep.
With everybody's name written in the offices before we
Yep.
even break ground. So this is not happening on the next building that we work on.
Yeah, yeah.
So quick question, Carol, with the grant, is it written in the grant that the D2 rep office would be in the building?
Not, I've never read that, but,
So it was,
it was a public works facility food shelf.
okay, just for clarification.
Okay. And then we threw in the Head Start bus, location, their stall.
Yeah.
So Carol, when you say, in the planning meetings, you mean the group of people that got together to talk about the building? Or was it stated that this will be the District 2 office in this building?
In our planning meetings when we first started. And that was based on what I was told, that it was always going to be Kevin in there because he was public works, but then it changed, right? I mean, in between applying for the grant and getting the grant and building, the maintenance department was created and he was moved to that. The same thing could have happened if we were doing a housing building, office, you know, not knowing who was where and who was in what department. Not having our resource guide, just kidding. But yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there.
All right, so this is a discussion. What would realistically say we said, okay, let's give an office to D2 rep. Knock somebody out. What would the cons be? Would it be the RTC? We have to pay that rent for that spot. So instead of us receiving 105L money, we'd be pitching in money for that rent, basically.
Yes.
We'd be paying
Yeah.
rent instead of us receiving rent.
You have to come to the microphone, Jim.
We wouldn't be able to claim that on 105L is what you said. Okay.
We couldn't claim 105L money because, he's not BIA, he's not, IHS, so. And it's 166 square feet, so it would be a small percentage of the building that we couldn't claim for 105L.
So the other question that might need to be clarified for council approval or council consideration is, right now there's 2 offices in that building. The rest of the office space is going to be cubicles. So right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, one office is slated for Brian Whiteman and his Vermilion wastewater worker to share. The other office is slated for Kevin Strong to be in. So if we have the D2 representative go in there, where would he go?
There's 3 cubicles, that's it, and 2 offices. So we would have to move them around, I guess, to answer your question.
Thank you.
That, that doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense to me to move the District 2 rep up to that building, the Public Works building. Sorry, but it doesn't make sense.
I think the other thing that we got to look at is, first of all, how we're going to pay for it. Being that it's not a BIA, nor an IHS person, like they said, we wouldn't get the 105L money for that space. The second thing is, right now, I believe that the Vermilion Government Center is where that's a community type function where there's services provided there. And so my thinking is that the Roberts office should remain in the Vermilion Social Center.
The other thing that I want to talk about is when people come in to pay their rent or pay whatever, you know, the new system that we're getting in is going to be set up to be receiving that money and those receipts in that facility. So that's my comment I wanted to make.
I echo Janelle's comments. Thank you.
I think at this time, we had made this, I thought we made the decision on who was gonna go into those offices back in July when I first started. Cause I was wondering, why am I making this decision? This should have been done when these buildings were drawn up or even thought of or dreamt about. So I was surprised back in July when we were deciding who was going in what office and what space was gonna occupy that building. So I was surprised when this discussion came back up in December. I do understand and I do hear that, you know, you'd like a new office space and, but I don't think I don't think it's in the plan for that public works building right now. I'm interested in a new Vermillion Social Center. That building is in need of updating. So maybe we can just plan on, your office being in the updated social center, but I don't think, I'm not sure if, you should move your office into the Public Works building at this time because everything is already planned out at this time for that one.
Yeah, from the original plans and, you know, Carol stating that, yeah, that was gonna be an office for Kev and actually me back when we first started planning this out. But, you know, this just gets back to the whole picture of me being here in Vermillion without having any work.
I hear you. There's some limitations that come with, just funding, because even like our new building, our workforce center building, I had a different vision and it's a lot
I
different on
don't
paper
think it's
now.
gonna be a
So I can see how, you know, we just have to make
that
sure we
cost.
communicate. Hey, Robert, I cut you off.
No, let's just get the cost of how much it would actually cost me for a year of being in there and I'll take it out of my damn check. I don't know what the hell. This sounds like it's gonna be millions of dollars a year or something like that when it's not even that much. Get the square footage cost. Let's see what it is. Thanks.
Can I just ask a quick question or make a comment? At this point in time, there's not even going to be a receptionist over there right now, right?
Oh,
That was the original plan, was all of us going over there, and that's why that lobby was made. That's why everything was the way it is. We were going over there. We were gonna help the clinic by letting them have all those offices and stuff in that art in the government center to alleviate some of the hindrance of having somebody in a freaking closet. I mean, there was plans and stuff, and we're not going by them because we have powers to be that will change them on a whim, and that's it. It doesn't matter what I say.
I wasn't in on those original plans that you're talking about. I don't know who came up with that original plan. And this decision wasn't on a whim. It's always been pitched as the public works. And I don't know if you said that it was an original plan before you were on council, maybe that was because you were under maintenance. I don't know where the confusion is, but it's always been pitched as a public works building to me. And maybe I wasn't in on the original plans. Maybe you guys had some meetings before I was involved. I don't understand where the confusion is. And I'm sorry if I upset you, but I need to go by policy and what these grants were submitted for. I apologize.
Sounds good. I think Robert had asked for some information on square footage on what it would cost, what the actual cost, because like he had mentioned, or, you know, we keep talking about what it would cost us in 105, you know. So I guess let's figure out what it would be if we put them in one of those offices and what it would cost the band and whatnot compared to collecting rent. You know, let's just give them some numbers. And but I do understand that the social center on the Vermillion side needs to be updated. So in my vision, I know that we had made this decision to not put them in that office back in July. So I had just thought we were going to update the Vermillion Social Center eventually, you know, in the next few years, because that building is old.
Let's get it evaluated and then let's put it in our strategic plan, you know, as a priority for the Vermillion Social Center, or call it the Vermillion Tribal Government Center.
Sounds good. Because yeah, in reality, if we do move you into that building, it's the Public Works building, you know, it's kind of like putting you in a closet over there instead of having you in the Vermillion tribal government side, you know. You're just a closet in the Public Works building. But if we have our Vermillion Social Center / tribal government on Vermillion side and your office is in there, you know, it's not an afterthought. It's an actual office space in a building where it's designed to be in, and not just an empty space in the Public Works building. And I know you had previously mentioned about having plans and you had thought you were going to be in that building at first, but it just seems like that we came across some restrictions that had changed up the plans, you know. But I'd rather see you in a dedicated building that was designed for RTC from the beginning and not just an afterthought trying to shoehorn you into that building last minute. But if there's no further discussion, I'd rather table this until Monday. Or with no I don't think there was a decision being made today. You just wanted to have a discussion today, Robert?
Yeah, I don't think we need no fucking motion or anything right now.
Sounds good. We'll get that information and we'll come back to the table.
I have no other agenda items, Mr. Chair.
No further discussion. I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Moved by Shane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janelle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any silent? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned at 12:49 PM. Our executive session will be held upstairs. I think so.